All right, this meeting is called to order. Mr. Trollman, has anyone signed up for public comment? Thank you very much. This is first right aloud the box child care local match for board contract years 2023 and 2024.
For the record, Sandra Williams, Workforce Development Division. This is our first child care local match for this year. In accordance with federal regulations and TWC Chapter 809 Child Care Services Rule, TWC requires boards to secure and submit local matching funds to TWC in order to receive a portion of the CCDF funding. Supporting documentation includes 17 board contract year 2024 match agreements from 5 boards. Those 5 boards are Central Texas, Dallas, Lower Rio, Panhandle, and Texoma. The boards have secured 13.4% of the statewide child care local match target for BCY 24, with 4 of the 5 boards securing at least 50% of their target. Staff is recommending that TWC accept child care pledges for donations, transfers, and certifications for expenses for BCY 24 in the amount of $5,418,606.
Comments or questions?
None here.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the acceptance of the child care pledges for donations, transfers, and certifications of expense for board contract year 2024 in the amount of $5,418,606 as recommended today by staff.
Motion seconded. Motion's approved. This is agenda item 4, waiver of a portion of the child care services rules in 40 text sections 809.133 and 809.131.
Good morning, commissioners. Mr. Cerner, Reagan Miller with the Child Care and Early Learning Division. This morning we have 2 waivers of the Texas Rising Star Child Care rules. First is a waiver of section 809.133D, which requires an on-site annual monitoring visit for existing Texas Rising Star certified programs. We're requesting this waiver during federal fiscal year 2024 in order to allow our new Texas Rising Star centralized assessor entity to focus their staffing resources on the entry-level programs that must become Texas Rising Star certified by September 30th. This is a one-time waiver tied to our initial implementation of mandatory Texas Rising Star and to the startup period for our new centralized assessor entity. The new entity is in the process of staffing up right now. The assessors can't go out and do their on-site visits until the board's mentors have worked with these child care programs and they're ready to be assessed. So during this year, we'll be closely monitoring the board's mentors' progress as well as the centralized assessor entity's progress in the implementation of mandatory Texas Rising Star. I also want to note that if you approve this waiver, we will still be conducting quarterly desk reviews of all current Texas Rising Star certified programs, looking at their child care regulation history and any deficiencies cited. And our second waiver is regarding section 809.133D, also through the end of federal fiscal year 2024. And this would allow current Texas Rising Star registered homes who are expanding their capacity and becoming a licensed home in the same location to be allowed to retain their Texas Rising Star certification for 6 months based upon their child care regulation initial permit rather than the child care regulation full permit as required by current rules. These home-based providers who are expanding capacity will receive an on-site assessor visit within the first 3 months of this facility change. This on-site visit will be required and would not fall under the first waiver that I just discussed, which waives on-site visits for current TRS programs. There's additional detail in the discussion paper. We are recommending approval of these 2 waivers, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions?
Just one. Given that staff are asking for a one-time waiver of the TRS annual monitoring assessments on behalf of the CLI, I ask that staff provide the commission offices with quarterly updates on the number of assessments conducted by CLI on the board and the board's progress monitoring entry-level designated programs. Regarding the second waiver, I would like clarification on how this waiver which includes an on-site assessment within 3 months of a home-based provider going from registered to licensed, aligns with waiver 1.
Yes,
I
sir.
I want to confirm that the waiver 1 is not applicable under the exception granted in waiver 2.
Yes, on your second question, that is correct. Waiver 1 is not applicable to those home-based programs who go from registered to license. And on your first request for data, we'll be happy to provide that with you. It is something that we're closely monitoring, and we'll be happy to share quarterly updates with commission offices.
Okay, thank you, Megan.
We're gonna take a brief recess. All right. All right, we're back in session. Did you have any further comments or questions on agenda item 4?
No, none.
All right, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the following waivers through September 30th of 2024 as described in the discussion paper and presented here today. Number 1, waiver of 40 Texas Administrative Code, Section 809.133 D1, Texas Rising Star Annual Monitoring Assessments Requirements. And number 2, waiver of 40 Texas Administrative Code, Section 809.131 A1, requirements for Texas Rising Star home-based providers who are moving from a registered home to a licensed home permit at the same location for up to a 6-month period.
I second the motion. Motion carries. This agenda item 5, certification and recertifications, community rehabilitation programs to participate in the Purchasing for People with Disabilities program.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Serna, Juan Garcia with the Voc Rehab Division. This morning for your approval, we have 1 UCRP applying for certification to participate in the Purchasing from People with Disabilities program and 10 CRPs that are applying for recertification. The new CRP is the Beacon Group out of San Antonio. The 10 CRPs that are applying for recertification are as follows: Austin Task out of Austin, Citizens Development Center in Dallas, Endeavors in San Antonio, Fresh Start of Monroe and Amarillo, Opportunities for Deserving Individuals in Beaumont, San Antonio Lighthouse for the Blind in San Antonio, South Texas Lighthouse for the Blind in Corpus Christi, Peak Performers in Austin, West Texas Centers out of Big Spring, and World Technical Services in San Antonio. Staff recommends the certification of 1 UCRP and the recertification of 10 CRPs applying to participate in the PPD program. With that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Any comments or questions?
None here.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the certification and recertification of the following community rehabilitation programs for participation in the Purchasing from People with Disabilities program as recommended today by staff. The new certification of Beacon Group and the recertification of Austin Task, Citizens Development Center, Endeavors, Fresh Start of Monroe, Opportunities for Deserving Individuals, San Antonio Lighthouse for the Blind, South Texas Lighthouse for the Blind, Peak Performers, West Texas Centers, and World Technical Services.
I second the motion. Motion carries. So agenda item 6, proposed rules for 40 TAC Chapter 800 allocations and Chapter 805 adult education and literacy.
I saw you coming, Les. Commissioners, before you today for your consideration and approval are the proposed rule amendments for Chapter 800, General Administration, and Chapter 805, Adult Education and Literacy. The proposed amendments to Chapter 800 create a new section, 800.69, Integrated English Literacy and Civics Education Program, which outlines how funds appropriated to the state under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, Section 243, will be allocated through a statewide competition. The proposed amendments also incorporate into rule the requirements of House Bill 1602 and House Bill 2575 as passed by the 88th Texas Legislature regular session. The purpose of the proposed Chapter 805 amendments is to align the rules with federal statutory language related to the state's requirement to award multi-year grants on a competitive basis to eligible providers with demonstrated effectiveness within the state. This would provide the state with the greatest flexibility to determine the duration of awarded grants. Staff recommends submitting the proposed rule for publication in the Texas Register for a 30-day public comment period. Staff also requests the ability to make minor, non-substantial changes to the document in order to comply with the publication requirements of the Texas Register and the Office of the Secretary of State. This concludes my comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any comments or questions?
None here.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the proposal of amendments to 40 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 800, Subchapter B, Allocations, and Subchapter L, Workforce Diploma Pilot Program, and Chapter 805, the Adult Education and Literacy, relating to statewide competitive grant funding for publication in the Texas Register and public comment as recommended today by staff.
I second the motion. Motion carries. So agenda item 7, proposed rules for 40 Tech, Chapter 845, Texas Work and Family Clearinghouse.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioner Trevino, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, I'm Colin Bradley with the Outreach and Employer Initiatives Division. Commissioners, before you today for your consideration for approval are the proposed rule amendments to Chapter 845, Texas Work and Family Clearinghouse. These proposed amendments will implement the changes made by House Bill 2975, which was passed into law during the last legislative session. The majority of the changes made by House Bill 2975 revolved around changing the language within the statute. So fortunately, none of the main content within the rules needed to change. We just needed to update the title, some definitions, and some other language within the chapter. Staff recommends submitting the proposed rule for publication in the Texas Register for a 30-day public comment period. Staff also requests the ability to make minor, non-substantial changes to the document in order to comply with the publication requirements of the Texas Register and the Office of the Secretary of State. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions?
None here.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the proposal of amendments to 40 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 845, Texas Work and Family Clearinghouse for publication in the Texas Register and public comment as recommended today by staff.
I second the motion. Motion carries.
Thank you.
So thank you. This is agenda item 8, Business Enterprises of Texas Customer Satisfaction Survey and Cost Analysis Report for submission to the Governor and Legislative Budget Board.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Trevino, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Cheryl Fuller, Vocational Rehabilitation Division. Today, I bring for your consideration and approval the Business Enterprises of Texas Customer Satisfaction and Cost Analysis Report to the Governor and the Legislative Budget Board pursuant to Rider 36 as part of the TWC performance reporting for the 22-23 biennium. The survey covers state host agency satisfaction with operational conditions of BET facilities located in state agency buildings. Survey topics include hours of operation, pricing, menu items, and product lines for cafeterias, snack bars, convenience stores, and micromarkets. The survey also covers satisfaction with product lines and the availability of product in vending machines. This year's survey was initially conducted in June with a very low response rate. We revised and streamlined the survey, increased outreach to host agencies, and conducted the survey again from September 5th to September 26th, this time receiving 691 responses, up from 615 last year. Of note, 92% of respondents agreed that operating hours are conducive to their daily schedule. 76% agreed that BET facilities make available a wide variety of food and beverage choices. 75% agree that healthy choices are readily available. And over 80% of respondents rated the quality of food, the quality of service, and the overall atmosphere of BET facilities, each at 3 stars or better. Staff is seeking Commission's approval of this year's annual report for submission to the Governor and the LBB and permission to make non-substantive changes and corrections to the final formatting of the report. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions?
None here.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Business Enterprises of Texas Customer Satisfaction Survey and Cost Analysis Report for submission to the Governor and Legislative Budget Board as recommended today by staff.
I second the motion. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's agenda item 9, board nominations.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner, Mr. Cerna. For the record, Cherie Dudley with Workforce Development. Today for your consideration, we have Workforce Board nominations for Concho Valley, Northeast Texas, Central Texas, Coastal Bend, Permian Basin, and Texoma. Staff recommends approval on the presented nominees, and I'm here to answer questions you may have.
Any comments or questions?
None here.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the local Workforce Development Board member nominees presented today for the following: Workforce Solutions Concho Valley, Northeast Texas, Central Texas, Coastal Bend, Permian Basin, and Texoma.
I second the motion. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. An executive director's report.
Yes, sir. Just a brief recognition, sort of. Saturday is Veterans Day, and I wanted to make sure that I know that y'all are aware of it, but just reinforce that we have a very successful team in our Veterans Leadership Program. The 22 staff has served about 50,000 individuals, veterans and their family members, since the program began in 2008. On average, they serve about 9,000 veterans or spouses every year. And services range from helping with transition to medical services, health services, mental health and health services, financial, food insecurities, housing, and just transition into the civilian labor force and finding jobs. I think they do an outstanding job. All 22 of them are veterans themselves, so they really understand what our veterans are going through. So I just wanted to acknowledge that group with Veterans Day coming up. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Is there any other order of business come before the commission today? No, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, before I make a motion, I just want to thank all the staff for their work on the motions and my team working together. So with that, I move to adjourn.
I second the motion and we are adjourned.